The year is 1969. Millions hold their breath as a grainy broadcast flickers across television screens. But instead of Neil Armstrong's iconic giant leap for mankind, a Soviet cosmonaut plants the hammer and sickle on the moon. What if history unfolded this way? What if the Soviet Union didn't just start the space race, but won it? Let's rewind to 1957. The USSR shocks the world by launching Sputnik, the first artificial satellite. For a decade, they dominate space. First dog, first man, first woman. But by the mid-1960s, America's Apollo program gains momentum. The moon becomes the ultimate prize. Now imagine a twist. Soviet engineers fixed the N-1 rocket's catastrophic flaws earlier. Their lunar mission, Zone 7, lands safely in 1968, a full year before Apollo 11. The propaganda victory is instant. Soviet Premier Leonid Brezhnev declares, "Socialist science has conquered the cosmos." The immediate fallout reshapes Cold War politics. A Soviet moon landing humiliates the US, fracturing its post-war confidence. Congress slashes NASA's budget, redirecting funds to military projects. Without Apollo's unifying triumph, America's cultural optimism of the 1960s crumbles. Protests against the Vietnam War grow louder, fueled by disillusionment. Meanwhile, the USSR doubles down on its space dominance. Orbital stations and Mars probes become symbols of communist superiority. Neutral nations, from India to Egypt, tilt toward Moscow, seduced by its technological prestige. The non-aligned movement fractures, accelerating Soviet influence in Africa and Asia, but the ripple effects go deeper. A prolonged Soviet space lead accelerates global tech trends. Without American competition, the USSR monopolizes satellite technology. State-controlled telecom networks spread, linking the Eastern Bloc and its allies. The Internet, born from US military projects in our timeline, emerges instead as a Soviet tool for ideological dissemination. Imagine state-run social media in the 1980s, a censored propaganda-driven red web. Meanwhile, US corporations, desperate to counter Soviet advances, pour resources into private aerospace ventures. Elon Musk-like figures emerged decades earlier, turning Silicon Valley into a hub of space entrepreneurship. Culturally, the 20th century rewrites itself. Sci-fi films like 2001, A Space Odyssey, glorify collectivist utopias instead of cowboy individualism. In schools worldwide, children learn Russian as a second language, not English. The Beatles' 1967 hit. Back in the USSR isn't satire. It's a chart-topping tribute. Even sports reflect the shift. Soccer's 1970 World Cup, hosted by Soviet-aligned Mexico, becomes a showcase of East versus West. Yet this Soviet victory contains the seeds of its own collapse. The USSR's economy, already strained by military spending, buckles under the cost of maintaining space supremacy. By the 1980s, food shortages and public unrest force leaders to reform. But instead of Gorbachev's glasnost, a technocratic faction takes power, leveraging space infrastructure to monitor citizens and crush dissent. The Soviet Union survives into the 21st century, a surveillance state orbiting a resentful Earth. And what of the moon itself? In our timeline, the US planted a flag and left. In this alternate world, the Soviets establish a permanent lunar base, mining helium-3 for fusion energy. The moon becomes a geopolitical battleground, with China and Europe scrambling to claim territory. By 2024, lunar colonies debate independence from Earth, echoing the American Revolution, but in a cratered, airless landscape. Would a Soviet-led space age unite humanity under the stars? Or would it trap us in a darker, divided world? The answer lies in the shadows of the rockets we never launched, and the history we never lived.
This is Bytes of Goats, where we don't just talk about history, we learn from it. See you in the next one.